All right, today I'm going to be talking about directing over posing. It's one of my very, very favorite things to talk to people about because I believe in it wholeheartedly. So this is me looking very, very cool. I don't look like that 95% of the time. I'm a mom, I've got 5 kids. I've been photographing love and connection for about 14 years now, which is crazy to say. And I could sit here and really tell you like all the cool things I've done, the places I've been, the people I've met through this amazing career. But I truly believe that is the least interesting thing about me. I'd much rather tell you about how cute little baby photographer Chloe was 14 years ago. And let me tell you why. I had the complete audacity to think that photographing love and connection was easy. I thought, how hard could this be? They're in love already, I'll just point my camera at them and take their picture. But I forgot the most important thing is that when we put that camera to our head, it creates a mile in between us and our subject. And it really becomes this thing where they feel a little bit awkward. Who here has ever been personally victimized by a bad tagged photo of yourself on Instagram? Yes, my people, same. And so what does that do for our internal dialogue when we see a photo of ourselves looking in a way we don't want to look? We think, all right, as suspected, exhibit A, here you can see me here in this bad tagged photo of myself, and yeah, looking pretty awkward, feeling pretty awkward, and I look pretty heavy, and I hate the camera hates me. It's okay, we understand it, we have this understanding. I will avoid the camera like the plague. But here's the thing. The person who took it, whether it be a photographer or a friend, it likely had no malice. And if they did, you should probably not be with that person anymore because they are not on your side. They just took that photo pretty quickly. They put you in a pose that they thought looked great, that they've seen on Instagram, and they were like, cool, took the photo, moved on with their life. But for us, it was sort of a defining photo. That's how we started to view ourselves. It's how we started to carry ourselves. So anyone, and this is the great news, you guys, literally anyone can become a photographer. And literally anyone can become a great photographer, a master photographer. It is a technical art. It is a beautiful art. We're all here. We're excited about photography. But to photograph people, it takes one more thing. You also have to be a good human. You have to be a good human. That is the disconnect there when photographing people. I love this quote, and if you've heard me speak before, you're like, man, Chloe, why do you always say this? But my good friend Kevin Bacon here says, a good director creates an environment which gives the actor the encouragement to fly. Like, whew, every time I read it, and I've read it a million times, I'm just like, yeah, that is our job as a photographer. We need to inspire our clients. They're just regular people in love. They don't know what to do. Let's break down those barriers, let's break down those walls and get them truly comfortable in front of the camera. So we're gonna go through a series of photos, and we're gonna start with what I call finding the light. When we get to the session, the very first thing I wanna do with my couples is I wanna connect with them. Hopefully by this time you have emailed them, you've hopped on a phone call. I love to talk to my clients on the phone and get to know them. And starting to figure out who they are, I send out a questionnaire that asks them very, almost personal questions about who they are, because I'm trying to get them in the mindset of what we're about to embark on together. And it's kind of a little journey, and my shoots are only an hour, but it always feels a little bit longer, and I always feel like I leave with a little part of them as well, which is so exciting. So I get to know them at the shoot, and then the very first thing, we're photographers, we gotta find the light. We gotta find out where we're gonna place them, whether that is on location at a beach, at sunset, easy, got sunset, we love it, or if it's at a home with dark window light, where am I gonna place them? That's the very first thing I'm doing when I'm going to the shoot. How can I ground them to the environment? How can I light them properly, whether I use artificial light, window light, natural light, all of it. So at this session, we were at a big ballroom, beautiful ballroom. The couple, I can't quite remember what she did, but he was a musician. He's a traveling musician. He does great, great work. And there was a beautiful piano there, and he was playing, and I took the obvious shot. I took the shot of her laying on the piano and him playing piano. But what really caught my eye was the weirdo lighting coming off camera left, coming in real harsh. I mean, we were shooting at maybe noon, and I was like, I'm gonna place her over there, because I literally had no idea how to add them both in there and expose for them properly and not get those crazy shadows on there. Do I absolutely love this image of her? Yes. If I were her, I would wallpaper my house in it because she looks so hot, right? Like, we love this photo of her. But how can I add the man in without crazy lighting, with only using this natural light coming in from the window? So I thought, well, if I have him in the shadow where I'm shooting, I can get a silhouette of him. Didn't have to change my settings, didn't have to take a lot of time. I just was thinking through the pose. I always like to move my body around, try different angles, because sometimes when we're so fixated on one thing, we really forget that there might be a better shot there. And why have to move our clients more when we could just move ourselves? I took this image last year. I was super excited about it. I was teaching at another boutique conference in May, and we were in Tucson, and they had me do a shootout where we broke the group up into two, and we swapped. So the second group, unfortunately, had very little light, and I really wanted to shoot inside, really wanted to shoot inside. So, I mean, this is right at sunset. We lit a bunch of candles in the background, and towards the end of this presentation, you'll see one that's just strictly lit is not a word, lit with candlelight. But for this one, I just placed them. We were in a little church, and there was like maybe 3 or 4 small little windows, and I just placed them as close to the window as possible, exposed for the highlight on her face, and we got this image. I had to do little to no Photoshop. All the lights were off. When you expose for that highlight on her cheek, when you're really thinking about that lighting, everything else just kind of goes dark around them and creates such a beautiful mood. All these conference photos, I don't know why I chose so many conference photos. I took this about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and it's still one of my favorite photos. We were in a dark room. It was just a normal hotel room, nothing special, nothing exciting. But for me, location is like the least interesting thing about what I do. I really don't care. Like, you could tell me to photograph here and I'd be so happy to. So I was trying to think. We had like a dark day. I had one of the attendees pull that curtain down really tight, so it created a really dark line. And that is a blackout curtain. If you had anything sheer, it would have maybe a more ethereal effect, but this I wanted really dramatic. So I placed him right in the open light of the window, and I placed her on that side, and I exposed for the highlight on her cheek, causing him to go completely dark, because when you have someone on a white surface, you're not going to get that beautiful rim light that she has. And this sort of started this creative thing in me where I was like, okay, I can start doing this in different settings. I can photograph people in a way that I wasn't thinking before. You should never, ever leave your shoot without trying something that is completely for you. I don't care if these people flew you out to the Bahamas and told you an exact set list. I don't care if you're working on an ad campaign and they're like, this is what you got to do. Sneak in something for you, because that is what makes us artists, and that is what lights that fire under our butt and keeps us motivated. So to play off that last image, these were taken all in 2023. I'm like, what year is it right now? I'm so confused. So the image on the far right was in the same idea of that first photo, except for I wanted them both in that beautiful rim light. So I just pulled those blackout curtains really tight. It was 2 p.m. sun coming in, and exposed for the highlight on her lip. I had him go ahead and like touch her lip just to add a little something to it, make it a little sexy, and had him look down at her just to give a little sexy feel to it. This, kind of in the same vein, but I put them in the highlight. I used 2 black V-flats. This was in studio, and I had a really bright continuous light shining at them. I believe it had a projection mount on it as well, so it was like very bright. And then I just sprayed some dust in a can and had them in the middle, and so I exposed just kind of for the highlight right here on her chest, and we were able to get that same effect. Same but different. But because I took a chance 6 years ago at that conference and was like, I'm bored, I want to create something that's just for me, I was able to kind of play off of that through the years. These are my clients and beautiful friends. I love them so much. And they asked me to photograph them at, I'm going to get this wrong, a bar, a dive bar that was located inside of a bowling alley. So imagine my surprise when I was like, I am not inspired in any way by that. That sounds awful, right? I'm thinking dark, I'm thinking dingy. And she's like, but the twist is I want to wear a ball gown and I want it to be like we just came home from an event. And I was like, see, this is why they're my people. This is why they're my friends. So immediately I was like, all right, it's going to have to be all artificial light, strobes, flash. That was in my brain. And we did that, and we had a little window light ones, and they were so cool. But I saw this neon light, and I immediately thought to place them directly in front of it and face each other and maybe get a silhouette, maybe a little rim lighting. But the problem with that is there was this window right behind that light that showed the inside of the bowling alley. And I just really was more about the bar side of it. I wasn't really into showing or showcasing the bowling alley for this particular shoot. So I thought, if I move them and instead of featuring just the light, right, what if I turned them and completely lit them with that available light? And then, we got a cool reflection on the side. And it's one of my favorite photos. I had him like hug her and kiss her and love her, and I just sat there and like sprayed, and it was amazing. So fun. Another bar shot, a little more elevated bar shot. This is an engaged couple, easily one of my favorite photos ever. And it was all because she needed to change her clothes and we needed a place for her to change. So I was like, let's go into that bar. I'll buy you guys a shot, because he was a little nervous. And I was like, you can change and we'll be on our way. It was an all outdoor shoot that day. I did not bring any lights with me. And then of course I saw how adorable it was in there. I saw the photo booth and I was like, I bet there's enough light in there for me to be able to light them with just the available light. I wasn't even thinking about the neon at that point. I was just fixated on this photo booth. And I got them in there, and sure enough, it was not enough light. And I was like, man, I'm sure we've all experienced this. We get somebody in a pose and we've hyped them up and they're ready for it, and then you just bomb and you're like, turns out we can't take it. And I didn't want that to happen. So I took my iPhone, I turned it on flashlight, I propped it up right on the camera inside there, and I was like, here's hoping. And it worked. So we can use whatever light even when we're not seeing it, which is great. I originally got a vertical, which I really loved, but I also got this horizontal, which ended up being the one I selected because Get Loose kind of just fit the theme with them. They were trying to get loose. They were nervous about the shoot. It just was like the full package for me. I love this photo. It was actually at a family session. And I originally, there's beautiful window light. I wanted to backlight them. He is a professional musician. For some reason, I get a lot of professional musicians, which I'm not mad about. And he's playing music for her. And I told her, she's very shy. I told her, I'm like, I really want you to like dance and just do like a little, thing with your dress. And she looked absolutely horrified. And I was like, oh, I read the room wrong. And that's the thing with us, is we have to be able to not make our clients feel uncomfortable. We want to portray them for who they are, right? We don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. So I saw that line, I felt it, and I said, just kidding. I want you to lean into him, and I just want you to look adoringly as he's playing. And originally, I did not see that reflection at all. I wasn't thinking about it. It wasn't something that was on my mind at all. But I saw, you see that highlight on her left shoulder? I saw that pop up on his very shiny guitar, and I was like, So I was like, if you turn your body and rotate this, and I got a little more specific with my posing than I normally would, but it was to tell the story. So not only are we seeing that highlight right here on her cheek, we're seeing that whole side of her face lit up beautifully, and at both angles, she is still looking up at him, which I thought was really, really fun. One more reflection shot. This was at their family's house where she grew up and grew up in her later years. And we were just simply walking from the living room to the kitchen. I think we were grabbing something out of the kitchen. I can't quite remember what it was. And I saw that beautiful light on her, and I was like, stop. And then again, I was like, how am I going to add the man into this frame and make this an engagement photo? So I had him step back. I was really hoping to get him looking at his reflection with a strobe pointed at him so it would light his face right, but there wasn't enough space, and it just wasn't in the cards. So I had him look the other way, but we still really get this beautiful reflection here, and it becomes a piece of art for them, which really made sense for them because their home was covered in art. Like, art was really, really important to their family. Okay, meat and potatoes time. This is my favorite thing to talk about, so buckle up. Directing the feeling and movement. So the very first thing when I get couples, at the shoot, we talked, we've got to know them a little bit, we're at the location, I found the light, I know where they want them. The very first piece of the puzzle is I want to get them moving. And it's not because, I want pictures of them moving, of course. It's because I want to deconstruct a little bit that thing that happens with people when there's a camera in their face, which is, like if I was more of a traditional portraiture person, which no, like there's amazing ones out there, but it's just not for me and it's not for my clients. If I were to pose every hair and have them tilt and do, just micromanaging the pose, it sends them a message that they are not that cute and they don't know what they're doing and they're not photogenic. And for me, like, I really want to break that down and make sure that doesn't happen. So if you start off and like jolt them into the process, which is adding movement, adding life, adding fun, it starts getting them out of their head and present in the moment. I am literally making them be present with me. So for this shot, sunset, I'm like, I want you guys holding hands. I'm not micromanaging the pose, holding hands, walking towards me. Don't look at the camera, look at each other. You're in love, having fun, let's go. And that's it. That is all I have directed to them. I have kept my energy high because I am inviting them to also meet me at that point. If I were low, my energy was low, it would be more like, oh, okay, and they're not committed because I'm not committed to the process as well. So you always want your energy a little bit higher. Beautiful engagement couple, love them so much. This was at maybe like the second photos we did at their session. Both wonderful people. He's definitely more extroverted. She's a doctor. She's a badass. We love her. And I was like, okay, I got to get these people moving. So this is one of my favorite poses to do, is I just have him, I'm going to describe instead exactly how I would tell it to them, because I think that will be more helpful. All right, I want you to put your arm over her like you're coming home from the bar. And girl, you're just going to reach up and grab his hand, and you're going to walk, and you're going to be so in love, and you're going to have the best time, and you're a little drunk. You're just a little tipsy, but not tipsy enough to look ridiculous, okay? And I have mapped out the mood I want for them, the motion I want for them, and I'm reminding them that just have fun with it. If it looks crazy, so what, right? We're in this together. The second image, as they're walking, I'm like, okay, you're on expert mode now. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to tell you. And 1, 2, 3, kiss as you're walking. Don't stop moving. And they're like, what? And they're like kissing and laughing, and we get them in this cute little moment. They're not laughing as much. They were like literally on expert mode, which impressed me a lot. This couple, we were at Big Sur. If anyone's been to Big Sur, it's one of the most stunning places on earth, and I happen to live very close to it, and I'm very lucky to live there. It was second marriage for her. He's from Italy, and he was like the most boisterous, loud, fun person, like the kind of energy you're like, yeah. So I wanted to make sure, this was like halfway through their session, I'm like, I wanted to make sure I had a lot of fun like poses for them, because that's who they were, right? And they were like real in love. Like I just could not get enough of their energy. So as they're walking towards me, I'm like, I want you just to scoop her up. I didn't tell him how. I want you to scoop her up, twirl her around, and as he's twirling her around, I want you to look into his eyes like he's like a slice of cake. And she's like, okay, let's do it. And so they did. And as he's doing this, he's just turning her around in circles. And so I get this beautiful sweeping line composition here. Do I care that I cut off her foot? I don't. Would I like to not? No. I feel like being up in it with a 35 millimeter really gives it that energy and excitement and motion that I'm looking for. So movement and directing can also be subtle. When my clients are still, they are still moving. I am directing movement through the whole time. So beautiful couple here. I loved their session. She told me on the phone that he's very shy, that he might back out last second. And it was for a mentoring session, so I was like, he actually can't back out because I'm counting on him. So please make sure he's there. I promise I will do the rest. I will make him feel cozy. And by this point of the session, he was just like, I got this. And don't get me wrong, they're the most beautiful people I've ever seen. I could have just had them pose like this and everyone would be like, well done, because they're so pretty. but how can I make it feel more natural? How can I make it feel a little more lived in, right? So I had them seated just on a regular sidewalk here, and I had him take his coat and move it back and forth. And I told him, as you're moving, just kind of look off. You're uninterested in what's happening over here. I want that light on his face. And I told her, because she had these beautiful twists in her hair, as you can see in the next photo here that we'll talk about, I told her, I just want you to twirl it in between your fingertips and look off. And you can see her arm. Hopefully you can see it right out. She's grabbing his leg and just rubbing his leg. They're doing all the things. I have gotten them out of their head and into the moment. I have given them a job and something to do. Because when people are nervous, you kind of need to like help them along with it a little bit. This second pose, I always hear photographers sometimes say in the wedding industry that the man is the prop. I really hate that. Let's stop saying that. It's not a good look. People are people, right? So I'm like, I want to feature him in a portrait that also involves her in some way. And also, let's feature some of her amazing hair, the beautiful twists. So I had her swing her hair. I won't do it right now because I got a mic on, but you can see it. Swing her hair back and forth, back and forth. And I said, you know, your light source is coming from above because we were in the city. I'm like, make sure your head's just pointed up. So again, expert mode, had her on expert mode. People will rise to that level if you invite them up there. And him, of course, he's just like in his like cool guy pose, which I love, just looking at the camera. Again, movement within a still image. For this, I love to create layers. Oftentimes you see the man over the woman in some way. I think it's just a traditional portrait, and sometimes I like to shake it up and throw it on its head and make the woman like the one above the man. So I had her sit on the bed and him in between her legs. And we were working through some things, and his legs were down, and that looked weird. I always try and bend. If your body bends, bend it for the photo. It's gonna look better. And I told her, I was like, looked her right in the face, and I was like, your light source is coming from here. I always tell people where their light's coming from, because they don't know what they're doing, right? They don't know where the light is. So make it easier for yourself and make it easier for them. Light's coming here, so keep your head this way. But other than that, I just want you to drape your body over him. And she was like, drape? And I was like, just don't think about it, just do it. And I promise you it'll look good. And so she did. She draped herself over him, and I told him, I'm like, I want you to get a little lazy. And he sunk in, because this isn't your mama's photograph, right? Like, we're not standing upright smiling at the camera. Anyone can do that. I'm like, I want you to sink into it. I want that editorial kind of feel. And man, did they knock it out of the park. I have photographed these people a million times, a million different ways. This is actually during a family session, and loved it. This was at an same-sex elopement, and it was at, if anybody has been to San Francisco, which is very close to where I live, there is a city hall there that is pretty iconic. And it's iconic because there's a grand staircase, there's beautiful lighting, it's like a golden kind of feel. It's absolutely incredible, and if you ever find yourself in San Francisco, you gotta stop by, it's beautiful. But let me tell you, my favorite photo is this one. That showcases none of that. Because I tell you, I am not a location girl. I mean, I can get excited, but I'm more excited by people. And her wife's veil, I was forgetting the name for a second, her wife's veil just kind of brushed up against her. And I was like, oh, I want to do a veil shot. And I said it out loud because I'm a talker and I love talking. And as soon as I said a veil shot, they were like, oh, we don't want the cheesy veil shot. And I was like, girls, do you know me? I'm not going to make you do that cheesy veil shot. I was like, I want to do something different. Can we explore it together? And they're like, yeah. Again, inviting them to be a part of that process with you gets people so excited. Like, let's create art together. It's a beautiful collaboration. So I said, I just want you to hold the edge of her veil, and I want you just to walk just enough for the tension to be seen, so we can see that beautiful highlight that's happening in the folds of the veil. And I told her, I said, I want you to look up like so proud, like you just married the hottest girl in the world, and you're the hottest girl in the world, and everything is great, and everything is awesome. And she did it, and it looks beautiful, and that little bit of tension just adds a little something, something to the photo. Adding movement with clothing, with layers is my favorite thing to do. A jacket, not something you would typically think to add movement with, but we were in studio. This was at a workshop I was teaching out for a friend. Great group of girls I was photographing. My couple, they are very serious people. So I don't think I have any of them smiling because it was not needed to tell their story properly. Not needed in any way. I want to fit the vibe to the couple. They're wearing clothes that were pretty tight fitting. He had a jacket. How am I gonna add movement with his clothing? So she was up against him. I had him with his arms wrapped around her, and it just looked kind of weird because his jacket was bunched up. So I was like, unbutton your jacket and like warm her up with it. I didn't like that either. It looked a little weird. So I was like, I want you to keep doing that in motion. And I told her, light source is coming from above. So just lift that beautiful face of yours up towards that light so it hits you. And then yes, I'm coaching them the whole time. They feel ridiculous. I think if it were a less serious couple, they'd be laughing, right? Even better. But this just fits them so well. And that's what we're after. This one, we're at Baker Beach in San Francisco. They're having fun. They're a bubbly, fun couple. We were running around frolicking. It was end. And I was like, she has this beautiful dress. And we were like having her twirl a bunch. And I was like, I actually want to get up in the action. So I have my 35 millimeter on. I think this was taken with my Z9. And I have her just going like this towards the camera. And how I've directed them is I've told him to just whisper weird things in her ear. I was like, just get her laughing. Don't tell me, I don't want to know what you're telling her, just get her laughing and having fun. And he's like moving her and she's twirling and they feel ridiculous and I am constant stream of talking at them because I don't want them to feel too weird. This is actually taken in Kentucky about 6 or 7 years ago. And I originally had it at eye level and this was in a parking garage. So at eye level, I was getting all of this white that you can see near the bottom of the frame, and you weren't really seeing the droplets of the beer. Quick tip on beer, shake it before you open it, crack it very slightly, take a sip if you want, and then cover it with your thumb. Because if you don't do that, you're just like shaking it and it's a mess. I decided that I wanted them to be larger than life. I wanted to get all those beautiful droplets. We got the backlit coming in from behind, so we know we're gonna see those droplets if we have a black backdrop. Positioned myself on the floor, shot up at them, directed them just to laugh at each other because we're all laughing because it was pretty crazy. I smelled like beer the rest of the shoot. I'm gonna speed this up because I am a talker and I see that I'm almost out of time, but took this first shot over here with a projector. My every intention was to make sure I had something projected onto their bodies. Quick tip, make sure you know how to work a projector before attempting something live at a shoot. The only thing I could get to work was the beautiful menu screen, which was like neon colored, and I was like, cool. So after some, trying some things, I just flipped it around. I sprayed some atmosphere aerosol. We got that beautiful backlit. I was able to play off of that same thing because of my happy little accident. Later on at a year, at this conference earlier this year, this time with an image that I wanted to project on them and also backlit. This one, they're on a table leaning in towards each other. I told them just to look into each other's eyes, kiss if they want to kiss, don't kiss. And you can see it just coming down on their hands. They were playing with their hands, which was really beautiful. This is that one shot I said at that church, lit them all with candlelight because the available light was non-existent at that point and I had no flashes on me. But we did have candles, which is great. Everywhere for candlelight, everywhere you want the light to hit, light a candle and put it near them. So if you look around the frame, you can see that it was placed with such intention. Her leg, you can see that highlight on her leg. Her hand on his head, you can see his ear and his jawline right there because of that candle behind. They're both holding candles. Those are their main light sources for their face. Because I felt confident doing this candlelight shot because of this next photo. I took this photo about 4 or 5 years ago when I lived in a beautiful apartment. It was like a warehouse style apartment with concrete floors. Loved it, loved it, loved it. And I was like, I might light my house on fire, but we're gonna get this shot. And I really wanted to use candlelight. I loved all the beautiful tattoos, which is great because we got this tattoo parlor over here. You guys should absolutely shoot over here later. And I wanted to feature him a little bit and have her kind of curled up to him in this like circular composition. So I had her on his hip right here. And then her hand, we didn't, the weird hand, we didn't know what to do with the weird hand. So I was like, just grab his hair and like scratch his head. Just keep doing that over and over. I placed candles exactly where I wanted the light on their face. And to kind of mimic that composition, we had it go along her back as well. We made it to the end. with time, 14 seconds. I love it. I thought I was going to go over. Thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate all of you. I hope you learned something about posing over directing. Thank you.